Everybody ready and awake? All right, so it's just the turn of the hour, so good afternoon, everybody. Slowly warming up, are we? It is the Delhi ki sardi after all. So we hope AISS is serving as a great platform to catch up with people, to have those conversations that you've probably not had for a while. Everybody enjoying the atmosphere? Yeah? Okay, so now we head towards the first set of keynote sessions for today. For the very first keynote, we'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Sandeep Arora, Director, Government Affairs and Public Policy, Microsoft. He's going to be speaking about securing more with less cybersecurity strategies for CISOs in 2023. Please put your hands together with a warm round of applause for Sandeep. Over to you.
Good morning, or about to be good afternoon, all of you. Happy to be here, delighted to be part of this gathering. And I think as I start, one of the key things we all in the room have in common is we are trying to bring cybersecurity in the middle of the conversation versus it being a fringe thing or a niche thing. And wherever I go, I tell everyone I meet that we need to stop treating cybersecurity as a vertical which needs to be addressed or handled. It is a horizontal, it's the base case, it cuts across everything we do now as our lives become more digital. I think looking forward to collaborate with all of you going forward. As we make sure that cybersecurity becomes the attention it needs, takes the attention it needs. And obviously, we all put together our hearts, minds, and souls to make sure that our online internet, our businesses, our citizens are safe and secure, okay? So I'll start with, should I click facing? Facing here, okay. Okay, so I'll, start my talk with a little bit of what we publish as a Microsoft Digital Defense Report. This is an annual report we publish, which brings out the landscape on cybersecurity, what's going on, how the threats are evolving, how threat actors are evolving, what are the key themes we are seeing. And this report is available. I encourage all of you to download the report and read through it. But I'll cover a few aspects of the report as I go through. And about the report, if you look at the report itself, there are about 132 contributors from Microsoft. There are 5 chapters. And I think what the report does is it synthesizes our knowledge. So from our vantage point, we synthesize about 43 trillion signals every day using the best of the tools available. There are over 8,000 engineers, researchers, data scientists working on making sure that we remain cyber secure, and about 15,000 plus partners who help Microsoft make this happen. And broadly, if you look at it, what have we achieved? 37 billion plus email threats blocked, 34 billion plus identity threats blocked, and about 2.5 billion endpoint signals are analyzed every day to reach this stage, okay? So I'll out of the 5 chapters of the MDDR, I'll not cover all of them. I'll briefly cover 3 chapters, 2-3 slides each, and encourage you to read the full report later on. So the key chapters are state of cybercrime, nation-state threats, devices, our readiness and cyber influence operations. And if you look at the state of cybercrime, what we are seeing currently is ransomware and extortion are becoming a national level threat, nation level threat, many nations facing it. We are not immune. In fact, from the signals we detect, India actually is less prone to attacks so far. There are less overall attacks happening, lesser on India compared to other countries. But that is not a point where we become complacent. I think it's just being fortunate that we are being attacked less compared to other nations. But the point is, this gives an opportunity for us to be ready faster, be prepared, because the attacks will come, they will happen. So if you look at the normal human-operated ransomware targeting rate, these guys start targeting about 2,500 organizations, and from there they are able to drill down to one victim. But the idea that every time a victimization happens is, what we see is that there are insufficient controls on privilege access and internal movement. And I think the basic hygiene doesn't get done, and I think that leads to these vulnerabilities, right? And if you look at the phishing threat landscape, about 710 phishing emails are blocked every week. And from a time a phishing attack happens, the median time it takes for attacker to access the private data is an hour, 12 minutes. And then within an hour, 42 minutes, they are crawling all over your internal systems, right? So I think it's very, very less time, and hence very, very important that we remain prepared and make sure that our systems are in place, in check, and basic cyber hygiene is being taken care of. From a botnet standpoint, we started an organization a few years ago called the Digital Crimes Unit. And DCU tracks and neutralizes botnets across the globe. And they have been successful in neutralizing botnets, and hence botnet attacks at very, very regular frequent intervals. And this is like the history, and I'll not go through it in detail, but you can read through it on which all botnets were taken down in which year by our Digital Crimes Unit. The second key emerging theme is nation-state threats. And we are seeing increasingly nation-sponsored attackers trying to attack an so-called enemy state, or they are phishing across multiple organizations or critical infrastructure in other countries. And many of these attackers are very, very patient. We have seen that they keep at it for multiple years before launching an attack. So you could see something happening for 3, 4, 5 years, and suddenly an attack happens. And if you look at the landscape from a nation-state standpoint, the attacks emerging from and the groups within each country. So we have obviously North Korea and Iran and Russia and China as the main countries where we see a lot of these groups operating from, and kind of doing multi-country crawling and attacks. And if you look at the sectors they attack, this is very important and pertinent to note. Information technology at 22%. Who would think think tanks and NGOs would get attacked? But that's at 17%. Education, obviously government, and I think from India's standpoint, the IT sector being one of the key pillars of our economy, and it being one of the key targets of these nation-state attacks, very, very important that we as a country, all the organizations at government, all our PSUs, we remain very, very vigilant and make sure that we have absolutely excellent cybersecurity practices. We have had a recent example. We all read about the attack at AIMS, the cyber attack. And I think that tells us that there are inherent vulnerabilities within our key sectors, and we need to make sure that whatever needs to be done to safeguard them is done. Then, from a devices and infra standpoint, I think as we look at proliferation of digitization, as more and more devices get connected, we talk about IoT, it also brings in more challenges. It brings in more challenges in terms of more endpoints being vulnerable. And if you look at the summary of attack types on the IoT, OT infrastructure, the largest one being web type attacks, 30%, remote management, 46%. And I think basically as millions of IoT devices remain unpatched and exposed, these start to emerge as a very, very large risk. And we all need to together think about how do we make sure that as we think of cybersecurity, we are not just thinking of cybersecurity at the back end, we are thinking of cybersecurity at the endpoint, at the IoT device level as well. And obviously, if you look at the firmware images analyzed data, which we kind of study, the security weakness is derived from weak passwords, known vulnerabilities, old vulnerabilities, right, which are years old, but they are still not being patched, and obviously presence of dangerous components there, right? Obviously, as we move forward, we know that many of you here, many of the people you engage with as CISOs, they are under pressure to cut costs. The emerging economic landscape is not very encouraging, at least for the short term to medium term right now. And I think all of us are in that thought process on how can we do more with less? What do we do to make sure, on one side, while we make sure that our systems are secure, they are not vulnerable, but we also try to cut costs and do more with less. So obviously the conventional security tools have not kept pace. We all know that. Cost of security breaches is rising. The cost of prevention obviously is much, much lower than trying to fix it post facto. And then obviously resource constraint, all of us, all the companies, everyone is resource constrained. So everyone is under pressure to make sure that the right decisions are taken. And we have heard this theme about cutting costs from everyone, across government, private, everywhere, right? So from a Microsoft security standpoint, what we can help do, and our teams are out there at the booth, is one, simplify your vendor management. Make sure that you are not dealing with too many vendors and running a very, very complex ecosystem internally. Secondly, obviously reducing threats using AI and automation. As I mentioned, we track about 43 trillion signals every day. And I think those happen with the use of the absolute cutting edge AI tools. And obviously the last one is improving efficiency at your end. So what, as I mentioned already, right, organizations are looking at to consolidate vendors. They want to improve their spending bottom line, and they want to deal with less products, less categories, do more with less. If you use AI automation, obviously you end up reducing your risk. You are proactive, you are not being reactive, you're not looking at breaches. The only cost being incurred is the preventive cost of it. And again, the operational efficiency piece, and we have tools available which help you get there. I'll skip this. I think there's some case studies which I think in the interest of time, the timer has turned red. So I think what I would encourage you to do is visit the Microsoft booth. We have people here who would be happy to assist you, provide you more details. And obviously, there are enough tools available on the web if you want to get there. And if you want to request our team for a security workshop to improve your security posture in your organizations, we will be more than happy to do that for you. So please contact us outside of the booth. And thank you so much Pleasure to be here. And before I sign off, end of the year is coming. Wishing you all a very, very happy new year. And not just a happy new year, cyber secure new year. Thank you so much.
Stepping into 2023 with a cyber-secured New Year mindset, and how? Cyber being front and center, the horizontal baseline with numbers that are mind-boggling and the footprints that are reaching far and wide across geographies and sectors. When you look at vulnerabilities, how they're increasing and the exposure to trends and attacks linked to it, all of these coming together in that conversation. Thank you so much, Sandeep. Aligning that with the next segment is the next keynote, which is on the topic, a converged IT/OT cybersecurity, core process protection for industrial enterprises. And it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Kirill Naboychikov, I hope I got that right, OT cybersecurity leader, Kaspersky. The stage is all yours, Kirill.
Hello, everyone. Great to see all of you here together. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the following presentation explores challenges and opportunities that industrial enterprises and critical infrastructure operators may experience while implementing their cybersecurity management system and the best technologies for their purposes. My name is Kirill Naboychikov. I'm the leader of Kaspersky Industrial Cybersecurity program and product line. My background and my experience is the 10 years in substation automation engineering in French nuclear power automation company, French transportation and power grid automation company, the US renewables power and grid automation corporation. But for the last 6 years, I help industrial enterprises to train their experts to implement the best technologies for the purpose and to establish the best practices to mitigate the cyber risks. In our today's presentation, in the following several minutes, we'll take a closer look to the industrial enterprises information systems, their security concept, the need for compliance that they are all facing, and the Kaspersky strategy on IT/OT convergence and how it may help to achieve the core goals of these industrial enterprises. And I thank very much the previous speaker. He did a great job on the threat landscape announcements, so I don't have to do it in my part of the presentation. The challenge is very simple. The industrial enterprises and corporations are increasingly relying on complex cyber physical automation systems in their core business operations. It increases the cyber risks and adds more responsibility to all of our here together, the security professionals. At the same time, the attacks become more sophisticated and more intense on a daily basis. And at the same time, the cybersecurity function within the organization constantly meets a lot of challenges and numerous challenges inside of their day-by-day duties. Let's take a closer look to the typical industrial enterprise and its information systems, whether it's an oil, gas, or chemical corporation, the power, grid, or utilities operator, the minerals, metals, or mining company, or a critical manufacturing organization all of a sudden. So in all of these companies, the field-level equipment is responsible for maintaining the technological process, right? And on the first level, level number 1, over there, the lower level of automation is responsible for automation and control of such complex field-level devices. We at Kaspersky have found hundreds of vulnerabilities in this lower level of automation controllers, protection devices, safety systems from the top worldwide vendors. That's what we do. We find the weaknesses and make them better. The high level of automation is typically responsible for monitoring and control and consists of some servers, operator workstations, engineering workstations, basically the computer equipment that we might see everywhere in 21st century. So the protection of this computer equipment inside of the critical infrastructure is a very important task, and we are trying to achieve that task with pride. Neighboring to these automation systems, you would always find on the third level the IT systems that are responsible for core business processes, the business systems. The cybersecurity and remote workspaces are dedicated for remote engineering and remote maintenance of the industrial sites. And of course, the corporate networks, they possess their own imminent threat. The Industry 4.0, Industrial Internet of Things, is another important pillar that these industrial corporations are based their innovation and technology approach. And of course, the third-party contractors, the OT services contractors, are always need to connect, to make their own duties, to provide the experts on site. And this possesses another challenge for these industrial corporations. So in order to protect the first and the second layer of these automation systems, the Kaspersky Industrial Cybersecurity was designed and created. It's a very unique platform that specifically designed for the purpose. It consists of several major parts. This extended detection and response platform consists of the endpoint protection, detection and response product. And its main advantage is the total coverage. So this product covers all Microsoft operating systems, starting with Windows XP, all the desktop, server, and embedded systems with one single solution. It covers several dozens of Linux operating systems, and even the standalone, air-gapped, and external computers that are brought inside of the secured perimeter are protected with the portable scanners that fits into the flash drives. So the total coverage is one of the great advantages. It's an industrial-grade EDR, endpoint detection and response solution. With seamless integration with other components I'm going to talk about a little later, it provides the prevention, isolation, scanning, root cause analysis, and it's best. Important feature of this product is the security audit. With OVAL-based rules, we're able to audit the compliance, the internal compliance of the organization, as well as the vulnerability research inside of the protected industrial control systems. Another important part of this native XDR platform is the Kaspersky Industrial Cybersecurity for networks, because it's impossible to protect the controllers and relay protection devices and some other smart intellectual electronic devices on the lower level of automation. So we have to protect the network itself, the whole environment. So it provides the full visibility within integrity control, intrusion detection system, deep packet inspection of industrial protocols, and of course the network inventory and vulnerability scanning and the network asset management is another advantages of this system. It provides the risk-oriented protection. So with risk scoring and complete situational awareness, it gives and it empowers the cybersecurity personnel to do its tasks. So both of these products are working closely together on the plant level. So any industrial plant could be protected with these two solutions alone. But almost any industrial organization have plenty of plants, plenty of industrial sites. So the single management platform with this native integration and complete kill chain provides the completeness of visibility of geographically distributed industrial sites within the whole organization. Of course, this single management platform covers all the Kaspersky products, all the ecosystem of Kaspersky products I'm going to talk about a little later. And of course, the third-party solutions and threat intelligence feeds that are coming from our threat intelligence portal as well. So, to summarize, the XDR platform for OT networks, operational technology networks, is a great solution to protect the OT environment. When developing our cutting-edge technologies, we're constantly thinking of the economical effectiveness of it. Together with Forrester, we have calculated the payback time based on one of our several dozens of success stories in one of our 600 customers worldwide. So the payback time for both solutions are from 3 to 8 months, and we're constantly improving that with our partners, integrators, and our customers. However, the strategy of the company is to create a full-blown security ecosystem for all target audiences, not only the OT or not only the control system security. We are thrilled to give our customers an opportunity to be protected from all possible cybersecurity vectors and to reduce the load on cybersecurity personnel as well. So not only the native XDR solution, the platform, but also some additional technologies are coming inside of the Kaspersky ecosystem, including some specialized solutions I'm going to talk about a little later, some solutions that are created by our partners, the hardware vendors that are using Kaspersky operating system, the cyber immune operating system that doesn't need a dedicated protection software. And of course, it's based on our knowledge of, on the pillar of our knowledge and expertise with our services portfolio and our trainings portfolio and threat intelligence portfolio as well. Let me give an example of how this ecosystem might work in a real security organization, in the real industrial organization. Of course, the first and the second layer are protected with the XDR platform I already mentioned. And another very interesting product, machine learning for anomaly detection, can analyze the telemetry of the technological data and predict the anomalies and predict the issues within the telemetry that it gets right from the control system, historian databases, and the network traffic inside of the OT network. The Kaspersky anti-drone solution protects the aerospace around the protected facility from the civil drones. The Kaspersky Secure Remote Workspace gives another cyber immune way to interconnect from the office environment to the control system environment for, let's say, for instance, for remote engineering purposes. Kaspersky IoT infrastructure security program and its secure IoT secure gateways based on the Kaspersky OS gives a great opportunity to interconnect the control systems to the cloud and IoT-based services in a cyber immune and safe fashion. Our new product that haven't been released yet, the SD-WAN, haven't been released globally, but we're already actively selling it in our homeland, gives an opportunity for industrial organization to rapidly grow their connectivity between the smaller industrial sites. Let's say for gas stations. They have thousands of gas stations that must be connected rapidly and quickly in order to expand in a rapid way. And of course, the single management platform with, that creates this IT-OT convergence between all of this OT cybersecurity ecosystem and all other Kaspersky products for IT security purposes. And of course, our knowledge that consists of security awareness program, expert level training, and the threat intelligence, both machine readable and the customized threat intelligence. And of course, the expertise. We're providing the AISS security assessment. And me personally, I was on several of these assessments. It's a very unusual how many issues you can find within a smaller automation system at the same time. So our strategy is very simple. Our IT cybersecurity ecosystem and Kaspersky XDR portfolio with a strategy on the zero trust and security assess service edge would someday be interconnected and already partially interconnected with our OT security ecosystem to provide the full and complete visibility. So our strategy and goals is completeness of ecosystem, the majored XDR platform, and the zero trust provisioning is on its way. On the booth number 53, excuse me. On the booth number 53, I'll be happy to meet and greet all of you colleagues and discuss the opportunities that we might have together. And I'm leaving you with a video I've created several months ago. I hope you'll like it. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Our industrial solutions protect critical infrastructures around the world. The platform of natively integrated technologies protects industrial systems, including those working with oil, gas, and hazardous chemical processing. Together with automation and industry experts, we're working to increase the reliability of industrial control systems, which have become increasingly vulnerable to cyber threats as they move closer into proximity with IT systems. Targeted attacks, exploitable vulnerabilities, data theft, and ransomware have all become challenges for the oil and gas industry. Our common goal is to prevent any decline in productivity or quality, loss of control, and damage to or loss of equipment. A balanced approach to safety and cybersecurity should be a key to sustainable growth of a responsible industrial enterprise if the continuous efficient operation of this critical sector of the global economy is to be assured. The Kaspersky Industrial Cybersecurity Platform is our response to these challenges, detecting and eliminating threats, monitoring perimeter security, identifying anomalies, and protecting communications with digital services. Our platform of natively integrated technologies and ecosystem together provide this comprehensive protection, orchestrated from an internal or managed security operations center, and help to report data to appropriate government coordination centers. Armed with the ongoing security provided by this approach, oil and gas companies are free to take maximum advantage of future digital breakthroughs. Kaspersky Industrial Cybersecurity, a cybersecurity platform for the world's critical infrastructures.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Kirill. You see how these segments dovetail so beautifully into one another, and as Kirill was speaking about, as Sandeep said, he was talking about IT and IoT and the Internet of Things and devices, and then moving into the whole newly imagined industrial workspaces, how protecting vulnerability becomes so important, how the core process protection at the convergence of IT and OT becomes interestingly layered because of the sophistication and the intensity of attacks and the renewed, attack openness that we're facing at the end of. So the volatility really makes us wonder what it is that we need to do to get this together and to make sure that we put in place these measures that will bring together whatever it is that it takes to cover our bases. And in that line is the next segment that we are going to have as a keynote, and this is by Delinea, sharing insights on securing privilege, how PAM helps security leaders. To address the audience, may I invite Mr. Ajay Boringwar, Country Manager, India and SAARC, Delinea, on stage. He's going to be walking us through securing privilege.
Sound check. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining this session. Today I'm going to talk about securing privilege and how PAM helps security leaders. So I think we all know about security issues today, the kind of threats, the kind of incidents that happen and what keeps us awake. Incidentally, we keep hearing about attacks every day. We keep hearing about different kinds of attacks, and every organization probably has a different issue or concern that raises them. Whether it is malware and ransomware, which is more common for everyone, and whether it could be something around data privacy related issues for certain regulated sectors, for certain, let's say, hospitals that we talked about a few weeks ago when the AIMS attack happened. Or it could be related to brand loss, revenue loss, about the incidents. Meaning, I think it's all there. We all know about it. There's no point dragging that particular. But the underlying message here is we will all be threatened with these particular attacks. And when all these different attacks will happen, we need to find a solution. Obviously, no silver bullet, but we need to find solutions. How do we avoid these particular, rather protect these attacks? We'll keep doing incident response, we'll keep doing other stuff, but how do we prevent them? And one of the prevention mechanisms here, which we all know, is definitely PAM. But just to, before step back a little bit and talk why and how and where it is all coming from, if we look at today's security, we have, or the environment today, we are looking at more and more complicated networks that we have. We went from the perimeter to today the cloud. We went to IT, OT. Just the session before, we were talking about OT security. So OT is also getting connected to the cloud, to your environments. You also have the cloud today, and not just cloud from an extended perimeter point of view, but really using the cloud SaaS kind of stuff. And then we keep talking about how different security vendors could come in, add those particular layers. So we are talking about the complexity of having more and more security vendors, more and more security layers to all the kind of infra that we have either on-prem, on cloud, or networks that we have. But if you look at any kill chain, right? We was talking about, the previous speaker was talking about a kill chain, and we were talking about it. So if you look at the underlying factor in any kill chain, the underlying factor in any kill chain is the elevation of privilege. Irrespective of whatever mechanism the attacker comes in, whether he comes in from the endpoint, whether he comes in from the vulnerability that was there, or whether he comes in from 0-day, whatever it is, unless and until he gets a privilege, he is not able to really perform any aspect. So how do you prevent that particular privilege, or how do you take care of those privileges? Again, privileges, if we talk about admins, regular admins, third parties, help desk. Privileges, if we talk about apps, your service accounts, your OT, almost everything in the OT runs in privilege. Your cloud SaaS, again, if I'm referring back to the technologies, your cloud SaaS, your cloud communication, your application to application communication, your API communication, they're all having lots and lots of privileges, right? Now, how do you make sure that the privilege is secured and the users or the usage is more governed and secured? So traditionally, we were only talking about the RDPs or the Unix systems or the Linux systems or the mainframe systems, but today, or the network devices, but today it's gone much ahead. So making sure that the privilege is secured is of primary importance. I'll go one step further. In the future, it's more, since we are going to talk about the metaverse, in the future we are going to talk about the OT being connected to the cloud or whatsoever, I'll say all users should be treated as privileged users. If we don't treat all users as privileged users, we'll defy and we'll keep undermining their level. We have countless examples of how a threat actor came into a user machine. If you look at the Cisco incident example, he came to that user machine, leveraged some of his credentials which was found in the browser or some kind of a, on the darknet. And then at the end of the day, he was able to get into the systems because of the elevation that was possible. So if you don't treat each and every user, each and every identity as a privileged user, you are going to lose it at the all. Now, what it also means is the traditional way of approaching a particular organization's security or the perimeter is now today extended, right? So we are talking about extending of the workforce because they are working from homes, and we are also talking about extension of the identities on the machine side, on the cloud side, on the service account side, on the DevOps side today, wherein all privileges are there. So if we continue using our traditional methods of privileged user and only making sure that the privilege usage is controlled at the Unix root level or the Windows RDP level, then that's not going to help. So extension of or the identification of what the privileged user is and how do we do it. We all know one entry into that network and your entire extended network will start collapsing. So the treatment, if you treat a PAM as a regular PAM that we used to think about, then we will defeat the purpose. Today we need to talk about PAM in the extended PAM era. So we have to talk about PAM in the extended PAM era, wherein it covers all your kinds of identities, whether they are service accounts, whether they are your cloud accounts, whether they are your IoTs, whether they are your DevOps, whether they are your RPAs, everything. And then look at the privilege. How much privileges are you controlling, right? And when you do a reality check, you will realize that you are still working at the traditional PAM level and not at the extended PAM level. That's where the change in mindset is what would require. So we at Delinea have the vision for supporting identities at the extended PAM level, and we have controls available to make sure all privilege access, irrespective of where they arise from or what the underlying platform is, what the underlying technology is secured. So limiting privilege escalation or limiting privilege elevation is something at the core that we do, and we also have some adaptive capabilities to help you with the analytics and the threat monitoring aspect per se. So I want to put this in terms of what we call as a PAM maturity model. Usually organizations look at first at the foundational step wherein they are doing privilege administration at the basic level, which is the Unix and Windows server level stuff or basic networking stuff, which is what we talk about the foundational aspect. But we need to go one step further and look at all your extended perimeters, and then also not talk about privilege access, but also get to the next level wherein you are able to control the privilege elevation at the device level itself. So privilege elevation at the device level is something where we will talk about at the enhanced layer of privilege. Third aspect I will talk about is more towards the adaptive, wherein we are able to have a layer of privilege behavior or privilege analytics and then think, okay, I have privileged users and what is their behavior, and then how do I correlate it to whether it is normal behavior, abnormal behavior, and then accordingly be able to restrict or shut down the access or remove the users from accessing certain devices almost in real time. So that's what I will call it as adaptive. So we at Delinea, we have various, under the umbrella of PAM, we have various, I would say, called modules within our Delinea platform, which I'll come to shortly. And these modules will help you at each and every level of the PAM maturity cycle. So despite you being a PAM user, you want to look at, even if you are at a foundational level, you want to move to the enhanced level and control the privileges of access, or whether if you are not a PAM user and want to start with the foundational aspect, we have something for everyone out over here. And then maybe even take it to the next level to helping them get into the adaptive authentication or adaptive intelligence per se. So that's where. So what we come from, Delinea as a company, obviously it's a merger between Thycotic and Centrify, many of you have known, and we are a Gartner leader for last 4 or 5 years. So we have this sections around what we call as observe, control, and adapt. So observing is obviously privileged user management is all around the observing monitoring, but then also being able to control the privilege elevation and delegation capabilities per se. And then the adaptive part as I talked about. So aligning with your, I would say the PAM maturity model life cycle. And then this is a cloud native offering, meaning not that we don't offer on-prem to those who want, but then we are talking about cloud native capabilities or true SaaS capabilities where we have auto-scalable clouds available and you don't need to bother about the infra that is required to host or to be managed over there on that particular platform. So that's the Delinea platform that we have. So end-to-end visibility, monitoring, controlling of privilege elevation capabilities, and then finally the adaptive security layers built on that particular platform if you want cloud. And the reason why I'm talking more around the cloud aspect here is because today we are going more and more towards cloud and cloud adoption, and then we are comfortable with the cloud. And even if some industries have not reached there, they are open to talking cloud today. That's the reason. So as I said earlier, Delinea as a company, we are only into the business of PAM, merger between 2 companies. We're Gartner leader for 4 or 5 years. Globally, we have more than 10,000 plus customers. Just if I talk about 2021, we've acquired more than 1,000 plus customers there. Global CSAT rating stands around 4.8 out of 5. And it's not a point solution which works independently because we need to build a lot of integrations, and that integrations are equally important for any PAM to sustain. We have about 150 plus integrations available and supported by the OEMs or by us, either separate OEMs or by us, which help you to bridge and integrate all the necessary systems, be it a vulnerability management or a HSM or a SIEMs or any other kind of systems or technologies that you want to talk about. Most importantly, we believe in the concept of being seamless, not just making it too complicated to use. So you will definitely find the UI UX very, very easy and scalable to use, but at the same time, you will have a lot more faster time to value. Think about it that our cloud offering can really help you set up a PAM in a matter of few hours and days rather than weeks and months. That's the kind of value that we offer. And maybe I could also say, even for on-prem offerings, we have been offering something like a zero downtime upgrades for absolutely zero cost for the past 5-7 years already. So that's the kind of value that we offer and seamlessness that we offer with our technology platform. And being cloud native, it's like we have the first mover advantage in terms of being cloud native. And I think today we're still the only one who have a cloud native PAM platform. That's about it. That's all that I have for you.
There you go, adding those preventive layers, the protective mechanisms that need to be put in place, the security measures for vendors, and ensuring that preventative measures are always prioritized over actually reactive measures, which talks about user security through various aspects and angles, the control of privileges, which needs a change in mindset, and access and elevation of privilege itself. All of that and more in that segment. Don't go anywhere. We still have some exciting and interesting talks lined up. The next one is by Netskope on data security in a world of cloud adoption. We've heard a lot of these terms going through in the last couple of days, and to demystify some of these connectedness of these topics, I'd like to request Mr. Gurinder Singh, Manager Sales and Engineering, India and SARC, from Netskope on stage. Gurinder, the stage is all yours.
Very good afternoon, and thank you so much for giving me time on this podium with the respected dignitaries and the people sitting here. So I would talk about an interesting topic today that is more typically on the data security side. So we talked about in previous sessions that like we have to safeguard our networks from the hackers, but ideally we are basically protecting our data from the hackers. And when you talk about the previous speaker said, like there is a lot of cloud adaptation which is happening today in a lot of organizations. And most of the organizations today, if I see, they are going through the digital transformation phase. So in that case, when you go through this digital transformation phase and you're adapting cloud, you're basically accepting SaaS application, you're opening the doors for the SaaS applications, you are putting some of your footprints from your data centers to the AISS or public cloud. You're basically trusting the cloud in order to basically, you're trusting the cloud where you're putting all your crown jewels on the cloud. And the challenge with respect to data protection was always there. Like, but when you talk about when you move to the cloud, there are a lot of other factors or facets which come into picture when cloud is in play. So perimeter, I would say, was more easier when you want to protect your world from on the perimeter side. So the DLP solutions which were deployed on the perimeter, they were looking at couple of channels, like say email was one of the channel, web was one of the channel, and host was another channel, which was easier. But when organizations started this digital transformation 3 or 4 years back, when they started adapting these cloud applications like O365 or GitHub or G Suite, Salesforce, which were making their life easier, but there were a lot of security loopholes which came in when you talk about opening your doors for the cloud. Because now you started trusting cloud where you're putting all your crown jewels. Like say if I talk about Salesforce as an application or O365 as an application, I was basically trusting O365 servers which were outside my perimeter. So what kind of security controls do we have on those servers? Whether a certain application which my BU unit has started using, whether it is risky or say safe. So those kind of decisions become very important, because when you're putting all those information or intellectual property on those servers, whether you will be able to protect them from the hackers or probably even the vendors who have some SLAs, like when you put those data on their cloud, they can easily share the data outside. So there are some SLAs which some of these risky applications have. So ideally, when people started moving to the cloud, there was a lot of adaptation of SaaS applications. And I would say when you start adapting these SaaS applications, there are inherent challenges with respect to ideally trusting these applications with your data, and then basically sharing the information from these applications. That became very easier for any employee today, because you are able to do cloud-to-cloud transactions. You are able to, like say if I talk about a OneDrive, if you have a data there, you are easily able to share a confidential data to any non-enterprise domain with the help of a click of a button. So sharing and collaboration became very easier, as well as it also became a big challenge for the C-level executives, because they have to safeguard their enterprise not only at the perimeter but at the cloud level, where the cloud-to-cloud transactions started happening when they started this journey on the cloud. Similarly, when they started their movement to the AISS platforms like AWS, Azure, or GCP, when I started safeguarding a lot of organization confidential data on S3 buckets or blobs, again, the collaboration part, the sharing part became very easier. And when you talk about these AISS cloud platforms, they're very dynamic in nature. So there are multiple administrators which are basically managing these platforms. So there can be a lot of misconfigurations which we observed in last 3 or 4 years, which led to a lot of attacks on the AISS platform side also. So ideally, the journey for cloud really helped us in achieving a lot of things with respect to simplicity, with respect to basically having a platform-centric approach where we can use the CPU power of cloud in order to make the work of employee very easier. He can be from any device. He can use all those applications or the SaaS application outside the perimeter. The life was easier, but the security pitfalls became more challenging for the C-level executive, and especially on the data protection side. So ideally, when you talk about in last year, whatever data was created outside the organization perimeter, as well as whatever data was shared outside the perimeter, it was more than when you compare it with the last decade. So in last 1 year itself, we have created that much data outside the perimeter. So you can see like what exactly is the kind of threat we are talking about. Because for any organization, data is the key jewel which has to be protected by the organization. And if that data is created outside, do we have a proper control in order to mitigate the risk which basically these SaaS applications are bringing in, or the SLAs inside these SaaS applications are bringing in, or probably even for the hackers, cloud became a very easy target because a lot of these SaaS applications were whitelisted in all the security controls inside these organizations, and due to which it was very easy for the hackers to penetrate or permeate a particular network with the help of any exploit. So in terms of when you talk about some of the use cases which became very important when people started moving on the cloud, so one of the use case which I can think of is multiple instances inside a particular application. Like say if your organization is giving you O365 or Teams or OneDrive or SharePoint or GitHub as an enterprise instance, but you can easily, with the help of a credit card, you can easily create your own personal instance and you can start uploading the data on that particular instance. The traditional DLP controls or the solutions or even the host DLP solutions, they didn't have the visibility or the insight to go that granular where they were able to look into the API and JSON calls and would have been able to identify, okay, the data which is going right now, it's not the organization OneDrive instance or G Drive instance, but it is a personal instance of an employee where he's trying to sneak out all the data and he can easily leak out or download that data on his personal machines. So ideally, that became a big challenge for a lot of customers. And since they were also working with multiple vendors, there was an inherent challenge because they have to allow multiple instances of these business applications for, say, consultant, for organization, for a partner, or other vendors who are working inside their premises. So ideally, they wanted a solution which can basically identify the multiple instances on these applications, and you should be able to have different DLP controls or policies, which was not there in the traditional solution to look at. In addition to that, like if you talk about on the AISS side, public cloud environment, as I said, like it's pretty dynamic in nature, and the sharing was easier. You can easily, with the help of a single command, you can share your complete S3 bucket data or transfer your S3 bucket corporate data to a personal data. So these kind of loopholes in the solution became very prominent for the hackers as well as the employees who were insider threat for the particular organization, and easily they were able to sneak out the data which was prevalent on S3 buckets or blobs. And the major challenge was majorly on the visibility side. Like when you're moving to cloud, what kind of visibility you have on the SaaS applications which you are trusting, or even the public cloud environment like AWS, Azure, or GCP, whether you're monitoring those environment, is there anything sneaky happening inside those environment? That was a question which a lot of C-level executives started asking themselves, because for them, it was very easy for them to move to the cloud, but the challenge became like how now I have started moving to the cloud, but what about these challenges which comes in when you start adapting the SaaS application or IaaS platforms? So ideally, I would say image leakage due to through images also became very prominent in last 2 years. When I talk about, there were a lot of screen captures which were taken on the endpoint, and they were, since a lot of organizations started adapting direct-to-net culture, so it was very easy for any user to take the screen captures and sneak out the information in the form of images. And since the data was not coming to the on-prem for scanning through OCR servers, it was very easy to sneak out a lot of confidential data in the image formats. And that is wherein required a different kind of thinking or approach, where how exactly we mitigate these kind of challenges which came in the organization when they started their digital transformation. In addition to that, there was another use case which also became prominent in last 3 or 4 years, where a lot of organizations, they wanted to give their private application access to third-party contractors in order to do some kind of business with them. Again, since there's a lot of confidential data present inside the private application which an organization would have, and he's basically giving that access to a third-party contractor, how do you safeguard or how do you ensure that he doesn't try to copy or paste the confidential data from those applications, or he doesn't download the confidential data on his personal laptop? That was another concern which was raised by the C-level executive when they started this journey on the cloud. So in order to mitigate that, if I see, we cannot be totally dependent on the static approach which was followed by the traditional DLP solutions, which I said like are more focused on only 3 vectors, which were basically web, email, and host. They had to now think about a solution or an approach which typically opens their door for the cloud-centric DLP solutions, or even solutions which are monitoring their IaaS channels. And therein, basically, the adaptive DLP approach started, wherein the new age solution which are more adaptive and continuous in nature, and they are dynamic in nature with respect to identifying the user posture in a real time, and they, on the basis of the different posture a particular user has with respect to accessing the corporate data from his personal machine or from the corporate machine, there can be different set of controls which can be applied on the DLP side with the help of these solutions. So if I talk about from a traditional DLP solution to the new age DLP solution, they are more adaptive in nature, they are more dynamic in nature, and of course they use more ML/AI engines as well as the UB analysis as compared to the traditional approach of DLP solution. So ideally the industry is moving in that direction where more user-centric security with continuous posture checks, as well as a security wherein the DLP policies are not static in nature. So when they see like there is a the AV on a particular laptop has started working, there has to be a more restrictive DLP policy. So those kind of approaches started coming in with the new age DLP solution in order to mitigate the use cases which I was typically talking about in my previous slides. And so if I talk about Netskope, so we are leaders in this space, and we have created this platform, a cloud native platform with multiple microservices. And with the help of these multiple microservices, we are able to get the real-time contextual information of a user and a posture. And with the help of that, we are able to take a judicial decision based on the posture of the user as well as changing posture of the user, whether a certain kind of activity should be allowed for a particular user or not. So we have a risk-based approach where multiple microservices can talk to each other to provide or take a judicial decision whether this particular activity on a particular SaaS application or probably on a website or even on the private application or a thick client application should be allowed for a particular user or not. So based on the different risk profile for a particular user, we can easily ascertain whether this particular activity is risky or not risky for an organization, whether it is an insider threat or not. And on the basis of that, we can take a call whether this activity should be the upload or download inside multiple instances should be allowed for a particular user, or on the AISS side should be allowed for a particular user. And we also monitor the posture for the AISS platforms, like, because I said like the AISS platforms are pretty dynamic in nature, and a lot of customers have already put in their ground jewels on the S3 buckets and blob. So we are monitoring these, the posture on the AISS side, multi-cloud environment for AWS, Azure, and GCP in real time. And with the help of that, also we can take a judicial decision whether a particular S3 bucket is now public, so this particular user should not be allowed to upload anything or share anything from this S3 bucket. So these kind of decisions can be easily taken. So as I said, like we are leaders in the SSC space on the cloud security side. So if you need more information on the data protection side or the evolving data protection solutions which we have started offering to our customers who are going through this cloud transformation journey, we would be really happy to help you with it. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Challenges of data protection in context of cloud, simplicity, platform-centric approaches, device-agnostic areas, realistic decision-making, multiple instance paradoxes for SaaS, and of course, image screening with adaptive data for dynamic changes. That was Gurinder Singh. Thank you so much once again for the keynote. Moving into the next segment is by Target on democratizing security through modernization. Please put your hands together for Mr. Visagan Subbarayulu, Senior Director, Technology, Target India, who's going to present this address. Over to you.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Visagan, Senior Director, Cybersecurity at Target. I'm delighted to be here with all of you. Target is a US-based discount retailer with more than 2,000 stores across the United States. 75% of the US population lives within a 10-mile radius of a Target store. Target in India is the second headquarters for Target, supporting work in areas like tech, data science, marketing, merchandising, supply chain, and much more. We also have a growing cybersecurity team that works with our US counterparts to help fight threats against our team members, our guests, and that's how we call our customers, partners, and vendors. Right, I've got something going on. Cybersecurity is definitely a team sport, right? We all live in a technology world today where every walk of our life, retailing, banking, healthcare, is driven by technology. One cybersecurity threat is what it takes for an organization to slow down or stall their services. So it's imperative that we understand that cybersecurity cannot be the responsibility of just one team in an organization, but by each and every one in the organization. In terms of understanding the requirement, right? So how do you make sure that it's a collective responsibility? That's through enablement and empowerment. If you're an organization that's already doing a phishing campaign to train your team members or your employees to find a fish, you're already in the journey of democratizing security and taking your organization along in the journey. If you're doing a vulnerability assessment or an exploit and win tournament for your developers, you're helping them embrace security. Or if you're helping gamify a cybersecurity awareness program, you're kind of in the journey of democratizing security. But the real challenge lies in scaling this up, and that's where technology can be really helpful. Right. All right. So when you embark on this journey of democratizing security and taking your team members along, at Target, we kind of embarked on a technology modernization journey a few years back. We kind of moved away from a monolithic architecture to modern, event-driven, distributed architecture. And we also took an approach of product-centric, which helps us break our business into products and help move forward. So when we started this journey, we kind of went ahead with the principle of looking at engineering practices as a foundation, common frameworks and languages, and tools and techniques. At Target, we have an enterprise architecture team that kind of centrally governs the technology that we leverage. And I'll talk to you about the benefit of this. When you have at a top level, the organization driving maturity, it's very important that the organization is able to leverage technology that is consistent across the organization. So at Target, we have kind of reset our base, which is basically to say we have an enterprise architecture team that looks at what frameworks, what platforms, what technologies, what languages that we use to kind of build our technology. And once you have this foundation in place, it becomes everybody easy, whether it's your infrastructure team, your digital team, or your security team, to build code and build capabilities that's not in silos anymore, but very relevant to the organization. Once you have the enterprise architecture in place, which is focused on modernizing and democratizing security, the next step in the journey for us at Target is to be able to help our organization embrace it, right? While a lot of organizations go through digital transformation, it's very, very important to be able to help your organization embrace that opportunity. At Target, we focus heavily on making sure that we train, mentor, and guide our team members, and also provide coaching to embrace these technologies. Once you're able to do that, the pace at which the organization is able to modernize and deliver offerings is phenomenal. So when I spoke about enterprise architecture as the foundational element, and then the next step of the journey is about building that culture of learning and helping teams embrace those opportunities, then the next logical step for us is to look at how do we modernize our tech. At Target, we moved away, as I mentioned, from a monolithic approach to a more microservices approach. We started leveraging the API economy, which means that we are able to decompose our applications into smaller modules, and everybody interacts with everybody else as a team or a portfolio through APIs. And very importantly, we also took an approach of what we call as platform tenant architecture. The way you can imagine this is, from a security standpoint, is you've got the identity probably as your core data, and then you have aggregation on top of it, which kind of aggregates identity data. And the tenants could be your compliance team, it could be an internal audit team, or it could be another engineering team. When you're able to decompose your capabilities into this model, you're able to very quickly move ahead in a faster pace to help teams solve their challenges. So I want to spend some time to kind of talk about how democratizing security, embracing modern engineering practices, leveraging the most common tech stacks that is consistent across our organization, helped us build some capabilities that help move the needle in terms of our ability to defend target. What you see on the screen is our in-house solution that we build called Product Intelligence. The idea here is very simple. If you're a security team, you're invariably having at least 15 different ways of engaging with your developers, with your infrastructure partners, or with your business as well. The idea here is what if I can simplify this whole thing and give one view for the organization to say that what is the security posture of your product or your application, right? Behind this tool is you got your endpoint vulnerabilities, your server vulnerabilities, your application security vulnerabilities, your data loss vulnerabilities, your cyber threat vulnerabilities, everything feeding into one system. And you think of the business here, right? So you've got a business leader who you could go and scale, escalate to say, hey, we've got security priorities, your teams have to do it. But if you can simplify this conversation to say, here is the security score of your portfolio, here are your findings, and this is not only from endpoint, it's a holistic view for you. And from there, it becomes even for a business leader to say, hey, why is my product security score low? What can we do about it? And this doesn't stop only with giving you the metrics, it also gives you this information of how to go about remediating it. And we built a bit of self-service into that, saying that once you remediate, the tool automatically reflects it. This is a good example of how, when you democratize security and embrace technology, you're able to help your developers, your business leaders, to have a simplistic approach and a seamless approach to solving security problems. The first example that I spoke to you about is more enterprise-focused, which is us democratizing security and modernizing security to help our developers. The second is an example of a combination of our enterprise and our business, which is our target.com business. What we try to solve for here is to look at what if I can build a risk engine that evaluates every transaction. It could be a login transaction of an enterprise user or a transaction from a guest who is shopping at Target, right? What if I can provide contextual, meaningful, threat-related information back to the calling application? Target today operates on the target.com website or mobile app. We are able to provide that insight to the calling application to say, you know what, you should probably step up this user because I'm not sure about their location, their device fingerprinting, their historical purchases, so you probably have to step up, right? So this is an inline application, and what you're doing is you're moving to a phase of what I call as a business enabler. You're no more the toll gate, but you're an inline application with your business to say, hey, you focus on what you're good at. We are a retailer. We're out to sell stuff. Let's focus on the business capability. Allow us to be a security enabler so that we can help you solve these problems behind the scenes. And we've kind of extended on that capability further to also look at what I call as when we have fraud and abuse. Traditionally, a lot of organizations tend to have what I call as security only as their only focus. But we've kind of ventured down to say that while we have our security work on track, how do I help business to fight other things like fraud and abuse? And that's what you see on the screen, where we are able to help provide insights to our business to say, this is what you can do to fight some of these threats. The last one example that I have here is about fingerprint ID. So I spoke about product intelligence, which is focused for developers. I spoke about a risk engine that's focused on our guest. Fingerprint ID is a solution that we built on a technology called FIDO, Fast Identity Online, which helps leverage the native biometric capabilities on your devices to be able to give a seamless login experience to our enterprise and partner users. Again, an example of focusing on modernizing tech and focusing on enabling your end user community to have a frictionless, seamless, and a simple way of interacting with our systems. So this is a homegrown solution that we had it industry certified, and we try and extend, we are hoping that we could extend that to our guest community pretty soon. So I think the point I'm driving home here is when you're able to take your team along and modernize tech and provide offering that is orchestrated, automated, and seamless, security is no more a push. The organization will embrace it so easily. If you can focus on security awareness, if you can focus on helping teams understand how to consume security, if you can think from their shoes, you're able to solve problems more quickly. So at Target, we have come a long way where security is a collective responsibility. Every team member is a custodian of our Target data, and we build technologies that makes life simpler and seamless for our enterprise users and our guests so that nobody frowns about leveraging security. Just a small glimpse of this journey that we have had in the last 5 to 7 years. What you see on the screen is the outcome of what we have been able to build in the last 5 years through modernizing and democratizing security. We've got close to 20 plus patents going in this space where I'm not here to claim that we don't use vendor tools. Of course we use vendor tools, but the importance is to be able to understand what is a threat that is more relevant to you as a business, as a retailer, and then start focusing on building capabilities, not tools. Focus on products and services, not techniques. To be able to say, this innovation that you see on the screen, at least most of them are open source. I'm happy to chat with some of you if you're interested in some of these capabilities. But it's very important to notice that when you bring in that cultural change, take your organization along in this journey, and help modernize tech, democratizing security is never a challenge anymore. So I want to leave you with this thought, right? Whatever your journey is so far, right? Continue to leverage the vendor tools that you have, but focus on in-house innovation and engineering. It's very important that in this wild out there, it's very important to know what I should be looking for, what is relevant to me, and how can I help my organization to be secure, and truly believe that a team of 200, 500 people cannot alone secure an organization. It takes a whole village to do that. I hope it helps you believe that personally in your own organizational journeys, you're able to continue to innovate and take your teams along in this journey. Thank you for listening in.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vizigan. There you go, the collective responsibility in it being a village, common architecture that's built for enterprises, the culture of enabling, educating, and embracing, how it's simplistic and seamless, and these approaches, how they enable as business drivers, and how you're enablers of business, and that's the perception that we want to hold and carry forward. With that, before we break for lunch, we have a brief and quick special address from Sectona. May I request Mr. Pranav Nair, Director, Strategic Alliances and Channel Development, Sectona, on stage to deliver his address.
हेलो नहीं बट आगे कुछ नहीं
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking out time to be here. Another edition of the AISS to what has been, I think, 3 years of uncertainty largely owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, right? But first off, I think thank you to DSCI and team for arranging this wonderful event. It's been a great turnout. It's been a wonderful journey so far, some interesting conversations. I was here last evening for the innovation box as well, some great innovations that we get to see from the country these days, right? But just largely speaking, I think we need to probably also congratulate all of us, and we all deserve a pat on our back, because this is a strong community that we are talking about here, right? Especially with the whole pandemic in place and that been happening over the past 2 years. We have generally noticed that I think there's been an emphasized importance on IT health and security generally. While I'm not saying that it's never been there, but I think there's been a stressed importance on that, right? And it has kind of given rise to more relevance to all of us. You know, it's kind of driven you know, a celebration in terms of what we have been persistently trying to achieve within this field, right? We have all been you know, trying to do something, make the whole you know, framework and system more cyber secure, right? And that has kind of gained renewed importance, right, in terms of how we are actually able to deliver that for organizations, right? Now, I represent a company called Sectona, right? We are primarily within the privileged access management space. We are an OEM. Some of you may know us. I mean, I've had the good fortune of working with some of you previously, right? But for the uninitiated, so privileged access management, I think you may have heard earlier, there are different terminologies, PIM, PAM, whatever you may call it. It refers to a very critical security aspect, which is a very serious level board discussion these days, right? Because this talks about protecting your credentials, protecting your access to your most sensitive resources, to your more critical IT systems, which is practically spread across everywhere, right? Now, generally, I think you have seen that regardless of the kind of cyber attack that has happened, and we have seen, I think, a lot that happened over the past 2 years especially, right? The baseline always remains that there's a credential that is compromised, right? And more often than not, it is a credential of a highly critical account or a privileged account, as you call it, right? And that's something a PAM solution like us helps you to protect, right? It helps you to control, it helps you to govern who needs to be given an access to what, why, and how you can actually protect that particular access that is given, how you can manage that access that is given, right? Now, there are 3 things that kind of distinguish us essentially, right? One is an enhanced security because of the kind of architecture and the platform that we have created, right? Second is simplicity in adoption for access from anywhere, right? And third is automation-powered approaches that help you to achieve scale, right? And this practically has helped us onboard over 300 plus customers across over 22 countries so far, right? 2022 itself has been a great year for us, right? We have launched 2 new product lines on an endpoint privilege and a privileged account analytics perspective, right? We were recently announced, you know, Gartner Customer's Choice vendor within the PAM space itself, right? We have almost, I think, doubled our team, right? We moved to a bigger office space within Mumbai overlooking the airport. We opened up a subsidiary office in Dubai to run a lot of Middle East operations essentially, right? And then we have a lot of interesting things lined up as we go along as far as the roadmap is concerned, right? Now, and I look forward to having more such conversations, helping each other out, collaborating on what more can we achieve within this domain, within this field as we go along, right? With that, I'll just conclude my short and sweet speech and thank you for listening in. Please drop by. We are at booth number 11. I look forward to having more conversations, please. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pranav. There you go, simplicity, adoption, collaboration. A lot of the words that seem to keep recurring as themes throughout. Now, before we break for lunch, for those of you in the room, some quick announcements. We have multiple parallel tracks that will be running between 2 and 4:15 in Maple 1, 2, Royal 1, and Royal 2. We have a government e-marketplace workshop. We'd like to announce that security startups can join this insightful session. We request others choose from the interesting track sessions that are lined up. Privacy Sub-Summit will start at 2 o'clock in Ebony. Please check the Sub-Summit agenda. The detailed agenda and conference handbook, I'm sure you have access to. The exhibition area is open. We request you all to please visit our partners at their respective booths. Also take part in the contests that are running. I hear there are Bose speakers and Apple Watches to be won, so you may want to try your luck at that. Check the Startup Pavilion hosted by DSCI's National COE. The pavilion is right outside the hall over the stairs. Share your experiences, tweet away, continue to engage with us on social. Lunch is served across multiple spaces, so make sure to spread out and enjoy the spread. We'll see you all back here for the keynotes at 4:45. Thank you and see you post-lunch. Have a good lunch, everyone.